Mad Men starts on Peggy Olson's first day in her new job as a secretary at Sterling Cooper.
I'm Peggy Olson, the new girl.
Like the viewer, Peggy is a newcomer to this strange new world.
Go home, take a paper bag, and cut some eye holes out of it. Put it over your head, get undressed, and look at yourself in the mirror. Really evaluate where your strengths and weaknesses are, and be honest.
She has to learn to navigate a 1960s workplace and deal with people who aren't exactly looking out for her.
Wouldn't be a sin for us to see your legs. If you pull your waist in a little bit, you might look like a woman.
But as the show goes on, Peggy reveals herself to be the new girl in another way. She's a new kind of modern woman representing her time.
I don't think anyone wants to be one of 100 colors in a box.
And she goes on to surprise everyone with her copywriting talent, her ambition, and her assertiveness.
I'd like to be the first woman creative director at this agency.
She represents progress. One small step for Peggy Olson is one giant leap for womankind.
The hell is this?
My new office.
What? Why don't you just put on Draper's pants while you're at it? You have your own office. You.
Every great ad tells a story. Here to tell that story is Peggy Olson.
In the first season, we might be expecting Peggy as the new girl ingenue to be made over and get on the Joan track, or on the Betty one. Instead, Peggy carves out a new track that's all her own.
You're a Jackie or a Marilyn. A line and a curve. Nothing goes better together.
Which do you think I am?
Gertrude Stein.
Once she's brought into the copywriting world in earnest, her MO becomes putting her work and herself first. So by prioritizing her own dreams and desires, she's following the lead of the men around her.
The conversation of a raise is not inappropriate at this moment, but do not be timid. You presented like a man, now act like one.
Since there isn't really a female example for her to follow, she has to look to men.
Do you think I act like a man? I guess you have to, a little.
It's easy for contemporary viewers to admire or like Peggy, but the show keeps reminding us that people in her time don't always understand her.
It was like watching a dog play the piano.
They seem confused as to why she even wants to be a copywriter.
I'm the first girl to do any writing in this office since the war.
Writing? Is that what this is about? I thought you were doing that to get close to Paul.
Peggy's journey is wrapped up in the story of second-wave feminism. The second-wave feminist movement started in the early 60s, coinciding with the introduction of the pill.
I will take you off this medicine if you abuse it. It's for your own good, really. But the fact is, even in our modern times, easy women don't find husbands.
It focused a lot on women's rights in the workplace and the Equal Pay Act of 1963.
They passed a law where women who do the same work as men will get paid the same thing. Equal pay.
So Peggy's timing is important because she enters the workforce as a young single woman soon before this movement takes off, as opposed to someone like Betty who's already a housewife and a mother by this point. True to the second-wave feminist movement, Peggy's career is about showing a woman can do any job a man can do, and claiming a woman's right to equality in the professional sphere. But the challenges that Peggy faces are very different from what a man in her time encounters.
Half of the meetings take place over golf, tennis, and a bunch of clubs where I'm not allowed to be a member or even enter.
In season 1, she gets pregnant with Pete's baby, but she doesn't even realize this until she goes into labor.
Honey, didn't mention that you were expecting.
What?
You're going to be a mother.
One of the reasons Peggy doesn't know she's pregnant is that she's been putting on weight for a while.
Call a girl like her a lobster. All the meat's in the tail.
Show creator Matthew Weiner has suggested her weight gain is a response to being objectified by men in the office.
I'll go write me some titillating copy.
So unlike someone like Joan, Peggy responds to male sexual attention by divorcing from her body.
You are hiding a very attractive young girl with too much lunch.
And maybe this is a subconscious way of rebelling against her society's view of women, of refusing to fit into the existing categories.
Women want to see themselves the way men see them.
After Peggy gives birth, she chooses not to keep the baby.
Don't you want to hold him, sweetheart?
This is a painful experience that stays with her over the years.
Think about it?
I try not to. But then it comes up out of nowhere. Playgrounds.
But Peggy refuses to be shamed. And again, she looks to the example of men to justify why this choice doesn't define her.
And no one should have to make a mistake, just like a man does, and not be able to move on.
The hard truth is that this sacrifice is necessary for her to even have a chance of building a career, which is daunting enough in Peggy's times as it is. Over the seasons, we see Peggy repeatedly prioritize work at the expense of her personal life.
I know what I'm supposed to want, but it just never feels right. Or as important as anything in that office.
Most of her romantic relationships are with men she meets at the office, which suggests what she's most attracted to is professional achievement. The most meaningful relationship at the heart of Mad Men is the unexpected bond between Dawn and Peggy.
It's been my privilege to not only be at your side, but to be treated like a protege, and for you to be my mentor and my champion.
In the first season, it's Pete who wants to be the next Dawn, to become his protege.
A man like you I'd follow into combat blindfolded.
Pete, as the privileged white male, seems to have more in common with Dawn on the outside, but Dawn actually sees himself in Peggy.
I've taken you for granted, and I've been hard on you, but only because I think I see you as an extension of myself.
Like him, she's strong-willed and creative.
I get a hard time about this. I'm telling people it was your idea.
It was my idea.
And she feels like an outsider.
Where are you from? Are you Amish or something?
No, I'm from Brooklyn.
The fact that Dawn can see this potential in Peggy also reveals a seed of progress in him.
Miss Olson, you are now a junior copywriter.
Don Draper may seem to embody this fading era of the Mad Men, but his relationship with Peggy proves there's also a part of him that's better than that. A part that can look forward to the future. People can't seem to understand why they would have this platonic relationship.
Everybody thinks I slept with you to get the job.
So, are you in love with him?
No.
It's not a ridiculous question.
While most women on the show want to be with Dawn, Peggy wants to be Dawn.
I look at you and I think, I want what he has.
She even tries to imitate her mentor by being harsh with underlings.
The strategy is Clearasil stops blemishes that keep you from having fun. That means no one should be having fun.
Strong-arming clients.
You have to run with this. It's young and it's beautiful. And no one else is gonna figure out how to say that about beans.
And adopting his catchphrase.
If you don't like what they're saying, change the conversation.
Over time, though, Peggy realizes she needs to stop putting Dawn on a pedestal.
You're never gonna get that corner office until you start treating Dawn as an equal.
She has to separate her identity from his in order to become more than his protege.
I knew that Dawn did not respect her. And maybe because he made her. And he always saw her again as an extension of him.
Eventually, she doesn't just become his equal. Peggy's more like Dawn 2.0. She embodies all of Dawn's best qualities, but she also has the self-control he lacks, and she's not crippled by self-loathing. At times, Peggy even surpasses her mentor, like when she wins the Heinz catch-up account with a pitch that's better than his.
J. Walter Thompson bought it in the room.
Are you kidding me?
Or after the merger when she ends up supervising his work for the first time.
25 tags should get the ball rolling.
I'll get right on it.
A piece. That's 50 total between the two of you.
Season 6 ends with Dawn on a forced leave of absence after yet another outburst, while Peggy sets up shop in his office. The shot of her from behind as she looks out the window mirrors the image of Dawn in the opening credits. But that opening animation is full of images of Dawn or the abstract man who evokes him falling, whereas Peggy is on the rise. If Dawn is the tortured anti-hero of Mad Men, Peggy is the show's down-to-earth heroine. Viewers have even labeled her the secret protagonist of the show, because she undergoes a more significant transformation than Dawn does. So there's an interesting hidden symbolism in this image. This show, that's apparently about the decline of its stated subject, the Mad Men, is in its soul really about the progress of the other outsider characters with whom Weiner seems to truly empathize. As much as Mad Men glamorizes advertising guys having boozy lunches and living the high life, the story is showing that this heyday is coming to an end, and the future belongs to people like Peggy. In our Betty video, we talked about how Betty's tragic fate follows from her outdated values and inability to change. Meanwhile, Peggy's very optimistic ending is the reverse. It's a way of affirming that her choices are on the right side of history. At the end of the series, Peggy's the only female character who seems to have it all. Peggy now has a happy personal life and a bright professional future.
Keep it up, you'll be a creative director by 1980.
God, that sounds like a long time.
I'm telling you, it will happen.
Her path hasn't been easy, but in the end, she's been rewarded for envisioning a future for herself that other people couldn't see or believe in.
Believe me, nobody wanted me there.
All right, Peggy, we'll have a civil rights march for women.
In season 4, the secretary, Miss Blankenship, dies, and Bert Cooper reflects on her meteoric rise.
She was born in 1898 in a barn. She died on the 37th floor of a skyscraper. She's an astronaut.
For a woman of her generation, becoming a secretary was the greatest height she could dream of reaching.
Nice to see you, Miss Blankenship.
I look forward to hearing that every day.
Peggy is like the astronaut of the next generation.
I have my own office with my name on the door. And I am not scared of any of this.
She starts as a secretary and skyrockets to being a copy supervisor.
You are the copy chief at one of the top 25 ad agencies in the country. You're not even 30. I'm jealous.
It's no coincidence that the moon landing happens in the same episode as her epic Burger Chef pitch.
There may be chaos at home. But there's family supper at Burger Chef.
The writers are aligning Peggy's career achievement with groundbreaking historical progress. So Peggy enters the 1970s full steam ahead, with other women following in her footsteps. Looking ahead, we can imagine that someone like the Secretary Dawn has the potential to be a new kind of astronaut.
I was the only one like me there for a long time. I know it's hard.
For viewers watching the show today, Peggy's grit plants the question of what the next astronaut could look like in our times. As the new girl of her era, Peggy sets herself apart with a self-determination that's ahead of her time, but which would become more and more accepted and even celebrated in the years to follow.
I know what you did, and it is a big deal. And when it happened to me, they acted like it happens all the time. It doesn't.
So the lesson Peggy Olson teaches us is that we don't have to just accept the status quo. If you work for something there's no precedent for, you just might be the next woman to land on the moon. No one cares more about keeping up appearances than icy, beautiful Betty Draper. She's committed to maintaining the perfect image, no matter how superficial it may be.
Besides getting the handsome prince, are you, an actress or something?
No, I'm a housewife.
The irony is that Betty's approach to life makes her very unhappy, but she can't seem to admit that what she's doing isn't working for her. Over time, Betty's values get left behind, and she fails to change with the times.
Maybe I'm old-fashioned. Betty Draper, that is indeed how I would describe you.
Her inability to confront her unhappiness and take control of her life is what makes her Mad Men's most tragic character.
What's wrong?
What's wrong? I hate this place. I hate our friends. I hate this town.
Betty's fixation on her appearance is a sign that she's devoted to values that are becoming old-fashioned. She was raised to believe that beauty was the ticket to marriage, and marriage was the ultimate goal. Betty's values come from her mother.
She wanted me to be beautiful so I could find a man. There's nothing wrong with that.
Most of the other characters rebel against their parents in some way. But Betty idolizes her late mother and holds on to her outdated way of thinking.
My mother always said, "You're painting a masterpiece. Make sure to hide the brushstrokes." She was really beautiful.
Betty's also trying to pass down this value system to her own daughter. She still believes that Sally's future rests on her appearance. So after she crashes the family car, she's more worried about Sally's face than her safety.
Sally could have survived and gone on living with this horrible scar on her face and long, lonely, miserable life.
Other shows act like their exceptionally attractive actors are the norm within the world of the show. But Mad Men keeps reminding us that Betty is treated differently for her looks.
That is some face you've got there. Anybody ever tell you you're a dead ringer for Grace Kelly?
Her society rewards her for her beauty, not for brains or talent.
Where would Mom be without her perfect nose? She wouldn't find a man like you. She'd be nothing.
And because Betty's whole identity is based on her appearance, she can't age or physically change without jeopardizing what she sees as her most valuable asset.
Dr. Wayne tried to look down my neckline the other day. And as far as I'm concerned, as long as men look at me that way, I'm earning my keep.
When she gains weight in season 5, she feels she no longer has anything to offer. The viewer's feelings about Betty are also shaped by her appearance. At least for a while, it may be hard for us to see past Betty's beauty, because we're enjoying the superficial pleasure and fascination of watching this picture-perfect housewife from a bygone era. On one level, we root for Dawn and Betty's marriage, even though it's obvious they're incompatible, because we just love how they look together.
Oh my, I am such a fan.
You know, when you imagine someone saying that to you, you always hope it's her. And this one, my God, are you two sold separately?
Meanwhile, even though we're seeing Betty's unhappiness, the viewer might struggle to sympathize with her because she's so beautiful and perfect seeming.
It's just you're so sweet and perfect.
I'm not.
Betty doesn't live in a time when it's impossible for her to escape her situation. Other female characters on Mad Men do thrive and change dramatically. Peggy and Joan develop professional skills, experiment, and mature in their 20s and 30s. But Betty doesn't take this time to find herself. It's as if she skips that stage altogether. She's gone from being a daughter to being a wife with almost no time in between. So it's like Betty lives in a state of arrested development.
Mostly, she seems consumed with petty jealousies and overwhelmed with everyday activities. Basically, we're dealing with the emotions of a child here.
And maybe this is why she acts so immature.
Sometimes I feel like I'm living with a little girl.
She deals with feelings of resentment by trying to sabotage others, like when she's jealous of Megan's and Dawn's relationship and gets revenge by telling Sally about Anna Draper.
If you call her, you're giving her exactly what she wanted. The thrill of having poisoned us from 50 miles away.
Her friendship with Glenn Bishop tells us that emotionally, Betty still feels like a child. It's easier for her to connect with a little boy than with the adults in her life.
I can't talk to anyone. It's so horrible. I'm so sad.
Betty takes pride in saying she's a housewife.
I'm a housewife.
She likes the idea of it and the status it represents to her. But Betty's personality is not at all a right match for the day-to-day experience of being a stay-at-home mom. She finds the role itself isolating and unstimulating.
I'm here all day, alone with them, outnumbered.
Her anger usually takes the form of lashing out at her children.
You're mean! You betcha. Get in there.
Betty's parenting style involves threats.
I didn't do anything. Don't you dare lie to me. I'll cut your fingers off.
Dismissing her kids' feelings.
He's really, really, really gone! Sally, go watch TV.
And just doing anything possible to get them away from her.
I don't care what they do when they're up there. They're just like a few hours of quiet.
Betty is so unhappy because even if she's not literally trapped, she feels powerless to escape the prison of her life. Her attempts to take control of her life never really work out. In season 1, she wants to return to modeling. But she can't get her career off the ground, so she takes out her anger by shooting at a neighbor's pigeons. Dawn's nickname for Betty is Birdie.
Birdie, I'll fix it.
So here it's like Betty's shooting her own hopes, or that naive part of herself that dared to dream she could ever be less unhappy. In season 2, an unexpected pregnancy stops Betty from separating from Dawn. She's talked out of getting the abortion she wants.
There are alternatives, obviously, but I find it hard to believe that as a married woman of means, you would even be considering that.
And in the end, her only small satisfaction is sleeping with a stranger before reuniting with Dawn. A big part of the problem is that Betty hasn't developed the emotional tools to face or understand her unhappiness.
I'm in a foul mood.
She can't bring herself to openly criticize or question the ideals she's built her life around.
Are you unhappy?
Of course I'm happy.
So her unhappiness has to come out in other ways, like her numb hands in season 1. Betty's psychological pain manifests physically, because she can't even admit her feelings to herself. And she tends to rewrite the narrative of her life to convince herself she's happy. When divorcee Helen Bishop moves to the neighborhood, Betty can't acknowledge that Helen is free in a way she herself isn't.
I'm supposed to be stuffing envelopes at Kennedy headquarters tonight, and my sitter just canceled, and I hate to back out because, well, you know, New York State is so important.
So instead of taking a hard look at why she feels so resentful towards her new neighbor, Betty convinces herself that Helen envies her.
Honestly, I think she's jealous of me. I've seen it before. I was in a sorority.
But there is one big moment when Betty acts on her unhappiness and says enough is enough. She discovers Don's real identity and is bowled over by the extent of his lying.
And now I'm not good enough for some spoiled mainline brat.
That's right!
Her decision to divorce Don
I made an appointment with a divorce attorney, and I suggest you do the same.
Plays out alongside the assassination of JFK and the shooting of Lee Harvey Oswald. Betty's more taken aback by these events than the other characters.
What is going on?
And it's because they represent an upheaval of the old rules. If the established conventions don't matter anymore, she doesn't have to play along. This seems like a radical reinvention. But of course, Betty divorces Don only to get remarried to Henry pretty much simultaneously. So she's going back to the same old habits, becoming a dissatisfied housewife to another man. And while Betty's second marriage is loving and honest, she's still with someone who doesn't see her as an equal.
From now on, keep your conversation on how much you hate getting toast crumbs in the butter, and leave the thinking to me.
The other characters of Mad Men adjust to the changing times and move on in their lives. But Betty can't. She's a casualty of this era. By the end of Mad Men, it's clear that the measures of female success have transformed, and Betty hasn't transformed with them. Her social circle used to frown on women working outside the home.
She's so selfish. Those long walks and that pathetic job at Benson's Jewelry.
But now it's being a housewife that seems pitiable. When Francine tells her about her part-time job, Betty struggles to justify why she's still at home.
Being alone in the house all that time, I really needed a challenge.
Well, there's still plenty of challenges ahead, believe me.
In season 7, Betty is diagnosed with terminal cancer.
I always knew that Betty would die, would contract lung cancer. And it was something that I kind of want to talk about, harvesting storylines, that from the beginning, her mother died right before the show started, very young. And Betty has a sense of tragedy about her.
We might wonder why she's the one who pays for the unhealthy habit all of the characters share. But symbolically, it's because Betty's the product of another era, and she's failed to evolve. It's almost as though the future is a hostile environment for her. Even though she's gone back to school to pursue a psychology degree, it's a little too late. The irony is that Betty herself once said she'd like to die young rather than lose the beauty that defines her.
To think one of the great beauties, and there she is, so old. I'd just like to disappear at that point. It makes perfect sense.
And when an early death becomes a certainty, we see that Betty hasn't let go of her original mindset. Her biggest concern is how she'll look in the casket.
I've also enclosed a portrait. The blue chiffon I wore is my very favorite. Please bring them the lipstick from my handbag and remind them how I like to wear my hair.
The upward arcs of some of the other female characters are thrilling, but Betty's disappointments may be a more realistic and representative mirror of life for many women in the Mad Men era. It was probably more common for women to feel like Betty, victims of social circumstance who didn't see a way out of their unhappiness, who were raised to believe the world was one way and then left behind when it changed on them. So while Don gets a hopeful, cathartic ending that hints at his bright future, Betty's is wholly tragic. She's resigned to her fate, and it's the same acceptance of the status quo we've seen in her all through the show. We only wish she could have put up more of a fight all along. Head-turning and all-knowing, Joan Holloway is one of the most subversive characters in Matthew Weiner's Mad Men. Her complicated journey from head secretary to executive exposes some of the most horrifying sexism of the 60s and arrives at a place that's surprisingly modern.
We won't answer to anyone. It'll be something of ours with our name on it.
Unlike other female characters on the show whose ambition or dedication to domesticity come first, Joan initially seems torn between these two paths. The unexpectedness of her character arc and how much her evolution surprises even herself is what makes Joan so compelling.
Because it's better than being screwed by you.
Desired by all, Joan's a kind of 1960s Venus, who's used to attracting attention for her curvaceous body, red hair, and dull face.
My mother raised me to be admired.
She's routinely compared to other historical sex symbols. First, there's the obvious physical comparison to Marilyn Monroe.
Jackie? Marilyn? Well, Marilyn's really a Joan, not the other way around.
Joan's devastated response to Marilyn's death is telling.
Hey, you're not like her. Physically a little, but don't tell me that makes you sad.
It's not a joke. This world destroyed her.
It reveals that sexualized women of the time were thought to be headed for tragedy. Show creator Weiner has said that Joan is like Helen of Troy, in that men like Jaguar executive Herb Rennet will go to great lengths to sleep with her. And Pete tries to persuade Joan to sleep with Herb by likening her to another beautiful, lusted-after woman.
Do you consider Cleopatra a prostitute?
Where do you get this stuff?
Joan's reputation as a Venus isn't just in her world. Audiences and media reactions to the character largely focused on the same. Frequent shots of Joan walking towards or away from us encourage us to notice her Rubenesque figure, letting us see her as men do. So we too are making this journey over the course of the show of coming to see her as more than a sex symbol.
I didn't know you were such a reader.
It's part of my job.
I thought you just walked around with people staring at you.
A contradictory character through and through, Joan both upholds and disproves sexist conventions of her time. On the one hand, there's what she says and expects from life.
Let's look for some actual bachelors. Empty their wallets.
And on the other, there's what she does and where her life ends up. At the beginning of the show, she hopes to get married and leave her job as office manager.
Of course, if you really make the right moves, you'll be out in the country and you won't be going to work at all.
To outsiders, Joan's engagement to handsome surgeon Greg seems perfect, but as viewers, we see that their relationship is a sham. His insecurities poison their interactions. He refuses even to let Joan be on top during sex. Greg rapes Joan in Don's office, and her decision to marry him in spite of this shows how far she's willing to go to achieve that heteronormative ideal.
I don't want to miss our reservation.
No, of course not.
Joan's disillusionment with marriage proves that this conventional life is a lie. Greg is emotionally immature and paternalistic, and the baby they have together was actually conceived by Roger.
I'm glad the Army makes you feel like a man, because I'm sick of trying to do it.
Although Greg and Joan are incompatible, each is strongly shaped by societal expectations of their respective genders.
Even if there haven't been other women, he's not used to listening to a woman.
Both suffer for it. Greg is scarred by his failure to achieve masculine success as a doctor and a lover. And the expectation that Joan will be a housewife is also exposed as nonsensical.
Why don't you just not show up?
I'll lose my job.
We'll make it.
Until when?
Greg is incapable of being a breadwinner, and Joan misses her work. In spite of these disappointments, Joan not only pretends to have a happy marriage, but even continues to encourage others to believe in this false narrative of marital joy based on typical gender roles.
And Joan is still, supporting that mythology to other people, even though it hasn't happened for her.
Joan's commitment to the happy marriage myth shows how deeply she's been shaped by social beliefs of her time. And one of the reasons it's so fascinating to watch is that as modern viewers, we can actually relate more than we might expect. The masculine and feminine ideals Greg and Joan struggle to live up to aren't so outdated as we'd like to think, and that frustrated feeling of inadequacy that can come with not being respected by peers as a real man or a real woman is still very commonly felt. Joan is especially vulnerable to these feminine expectations because her self-image comes from how others see her. Given how much validation she's gotten for her looks and how little for other aspects of her personality, it makes sense that she places such importance on finding a man, and that she's stuck in this mindset even though she knows on some level that it's hollow.
If he's going to end it, which I doubt, you'll know what to do. If he's going to propose, you better have your answer prepared. Especially if it's no.
We might even read some subtle cues into her name. Holloway sounds like hollow way, perhaps alluding to the superficial drive to marry well, which isn't serving her, while Joan evokes the independent Joan of Arc, perhaps a nod to her true nature as a self-reliant individual.
They'll drag you into the garbage out there. They just want you to be as miserable as they are. I say let them have it.
Yet while most notice her body first, Joan's intelligence is almost as quickly conveyed to us. Bordering on cynical, Joan knows exactly what others are thinking about her, as well as what they're plotting in general. Apart from her one big delusion about Mr. Right, what we might call her blind spot, her eyes are unclouded by naivete or wanting to see the best in people. She knows the bottom lines and understands the world she's living in far more accurately than almost any other character. Joan displays great aptitude for working within the sexist parameters of the time to get ahead. Like Peggy, she overcomes the obstacles to female success in the workplace. But the two take opposite approaches to their femininity.
You want to be taken seriously? Stop dressing like a little girl.
Weiner has said that Peggy's weight gain in the first season is a response to feeling sexualized by men in the office. In contrast, Joan would never consider trying to unsex herself or appear more masculine. She wears form-fitting clothes that enhance rather than hide her body, and she's resourceful about using her sexuality as a currency. Although she does find the prospect of sleeping with Herb repulsive, she agrees because it's the only way for her to reach the professional level of partner.
It is a lot of money, Lane. It's 4 times what I make in a year.
The quality of her work is irrelevant in this work environment, as we see in Season 2 when her beloved script reading job is given to a man.
He's going to be in charge of broadcast operations.
Excuse me?
I've really appreciated you filling in. I couldn't have asked for more. Joan knows everything about this.
That makes one of us.
Joan's pragmatism and acceptance can sometimes backfire on her, though.
Well, no matter how powerful we get around here, they can still just draw a cartoon.
And her skill at realistically navigating the system can't protect her from still being exploited and feeling humiliated.
I'm not some young girl off the bus. I don't need some madam from a Shanghai whorehouse to show me the ropes.
Businessmen from other offices also refuse to take Joan seriously, subjecting her to endless sexual harassment and innuendo.
You should be in the bra business. Your work of art.
Men often act like Joan is distracting in a business context, when they're the ones unwilling to focus on the business at hand. Though she doesn't let others see it, the weight of the patriarchy takes a big toll on her.
I am not your darling, and I don't want your kisses. What? I thought American men were bad enough, but none of them has ever so consistently made me feel like a helpless, stupid little girl.
Even her romantic partners can't comprehend how Joan could be equally committed to her work and to a relationship.
I can't just turn off that part of myself. I would never dream of making you choose.
In many ways, Joan is Dawn's feminine counterpart. She's similarly carnal, confident, desirable, and shrewd, but these qualities don't always work for her as they do for Dawn. Joan's decision to sleep with Herb in exchange for the agency partnership is viewed unfavorably.
You know what? I'm sorry my accomplishments happened in broad daylight, and I can't be given the same rewards.
But Dawn's sexual impropriety within the office is rarely held against him, and his sexual encounters can also have a transactional nature to them, as when he asks Dr. Fay for the names of dissatisfied clients he can poach. It's significant that Dawn never pursues Joan romantically, because apart from Peggy, who's like a daughter protege to him, he has at least some sexual or flirtatious interaction with almost every other young attractive woman we meet. But Joan and Dawn feel almost like siblings or male and female equivalents.
But no flowers from you.
You scared the shit out of me.
too alike somehow, like they see through each other. When Don gets upset about Joan sleeping with Herb, his reaction comes off like the protective brother defending his relation's virtue.
I wanted to tell you it's not worth it. And if we don't get Jaguar, so what?
Yet Weiner has suggested the deeper reason for Dawn's reaction is a subconscious rivalry or competitiveness. Her action invalidates the importance of his advertising pitch, and in this case, Joan's desirability trumps his, which is a feeling he's not really used to.
He wants to win it. He doesn't need any help. It's hard for people to understand that, but the man has a really big ego.
And there's another very significant way in which the show leaves Joan in a similar position to Dawn, her ultimate relationship status. Out of the major female characters on Mad Men, Joan is the only one who's not in a relationship at the end of the show.
But it seems to me your life is undeveloped property. You can turn it into anything you want. It's got a hell of a view.
She's grown into an independent, self-assured single mother and business owner. Her decision to name her company using her maiden and married last names instead of searching for a partner
Holloway Harris, how may I help you?
reflects an acceptance of her full self. She's no longer trying to satisfy gendered expectations that don't serve her. Finally, she is her own boss. The irony is that the Joan we first met was not trying to end up here and would not have wanted this life.
All partners present?
Hi.
Rather than fulfilling the feminine ideals she's been chasing, she's actually succeeded more by the masculine standards of her time. Yet she's achieved far greater success than it occurred to her to dream of. And she outgrew not just our expectations, but her own.
That's The Take. Click here to watch a video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.